Residents are still reeling after a mass shooting. The mayor and police chief are set to meet with area neighbors in Lawrence Heights just days after one person was struck and killed and 5 others were injured. Good afternoon. Gun violence in the city is top of mind today, coming in the wake of that mass shooting in North York and on the heels of arrests announced in an attack at a Scarborough pub earlier this year.
However, speaking this morning, the mayor says gun violence in the city is not out of control. CTV Sean Leathong is live with more. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, the mayor making the comments this morning talking about how the shootings were targeted, but she did say that gun violence is a problem. A day after one man was killed and 5 others sent to hospital, the result of a shooting in Lawrence Heights, and as police announced 10 arrests related to a series of shootings last March that includes a mass shooting at a Scarborough pub.
Gun violence is absolutely a problem, which is why you would notice that 2 days ago I announced a summer safety plan.
Chow, along with Police Chief Myron Demkew, will be visiting the area where the shooting took place this morning. Yesterday, Chief Demkew called the violence completely unacceptable.
This kind of violence causes a lot of pain and anxiety in our communities.
According to Councillor Mike Cole, the victim was a 31-year-old man who had been using a wheelchair since another shooting in 2018. The other victims range in age from 17 to 30 years old. Police say the shooting was targeted and they're looking for 3 suspects.
The area was targeted, that group of individuals was targeted, but I don't know specifically who in that group was targeted.
Also yesterday, police announcing 10 arrests in relation to several shootings in early March. That includes the one at the Piper Arms pub in Scarborough on March 7th.
There's no kind of organization to them. There's no emblems. There's no colors or code. There's nothing. They're just young males. Police saying that among the arrested are all 3 shooters from the pub, as they allege that at least one of them was involved in 2 other shootings involving the tow truck industry from March 4th. It is part of the tow truck turf wars that we're going on, and we're hoping now that those that we arrested will really make a difference in the number of shootings that we're seeing.
Police also saying yesterday that they're investigating the possibility that the shooters involved in the tow truck industry may have been hired. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Still ahead, Canada's first astronaut in space who later served as a cabinet minister has died at the age of 76. We have more on Marc Garneau's connection to a local school a little later in the newscast.
But at first, we get to the latest on the wildfires raging across Western Canada. Fires that have forced more than 30,000 people to flee from the flames and sent a smoky haze as far away as Newfoundland and Texas. Scott Hurst joins us now. Scott's been monitoring the situation. What is the latest, Scott?
Michelle, good afternoon. It remains a struggle to get many of these fires under control, really carving a swath of destruction across several provinces. As of right now, there are still 24 wildfires burning in each Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So just from those 2 provinces, it is just shy of 50 wildfires burning, and Ontario is affected as well with just shy of 20 fires in this province, mostly closer to the Manitoba border in the northwestern part of the province. But here's a map right now of some of the wildfires burning in Manitoba. And as wildfires continue to pop up and spread in the north, First Nations leaders in that province say they don't have the proper equipment to fight the fires that continue to devastate their communities and displace residents. Now, moving further west, a fast-moving wildfire in Leathong, Saskatchewan, has forced thousands from their homes, and it's also burned down an historic landmark. Video captured flames consuming a decades-old trading post and destroying hundreds of pieces of Indigenous art and artifacts. Now, in terms of help overall for everyone displaced by the fires, we know that it will be immense. The need will be significant for the months and also years to come as families and communities recover and rebuild. We know Ottawa has announced it will match every dollar donated to the Canadian Red Cross. The government of Manitoba is also pledging to match Red Cross donations, and Michelle, Saskatchewan is immediately giving $15 million to the Red Cross to work with the provincial public safety agency to support people displaced, forced out by these fires.
Crews battle these flames, the smoke. It travels very far down into the U.S. and across Canada. Let's talk about the areas most affected by this wildfire smoke.
Yeah, of course, the wildfire smoke is most intense around the areas where the fires are located and in bigger cities in those provinces. One example is the city of Winnipeg. It is facing an air quality warning right now, and the air quality health index is a 10, the highest, or should we say the worst rating on that scale. But the smoke is billowing much further afield, and of course we know smoke knows no barriers, not just affecting other parts of Canada. We've been noticing it here in Toronto, farther east in this country, even across the Atlantic in the United Kingdom, showing signs of wildfire smoke from Canada. But also, Michelle, as far south as Texas, reporting some of the smoke coming from these Canadian wildfires.
That is unfortunate. CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
And we have more news in a moment, but first here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Mainly cloudy, but still where we should be temperature-wise. Comfortable. There's also a chance of showers, but not a washout. Overall, not a bad day. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
Well, Nathan, I think the biggest difference today is how it feels out there. We made it to 31 degrees today, or yesterday, I should say. We're going to be a little cooler than that today. And we do have some wet weather. There's a close look at the satellite and radar. This is all along a cold front, which is also contributing to the cool down. And we were active overnight last night. There was even a tornado warning at one point in extreme southwest Ontario. There's the northerly winds. We're feeling those today. It is 19 degrees right now. Overall today, we're going to be on the cool side of seasonal, and we're going to hang on to the chance of showers throughout the afternoon with some improvements heading into the early part of the evening. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking about the air quality statement that was issued today for parts of southern Ontario. Those details are ahead. For now, though, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Toronto police have issued a public safety alert after a woman says that she was sexually assaulted last night in High Park. Investigators say they responded to the Howard Park and Parkside Drive area at around 10:40 p.m. A female victim said she was approached from behind by an unknown man who dragged her into a wooded area and sexually assaulted her. Now, she says she was able to get away and seek help from a passerby who called police. Now, they're looking for a man described as 5'10", 30 to 40 years old. We'll have more on this story tonight on CTV News at 5 and 6.
One person is in hospital after a carbon monoxide leak at a North York apartment building. Emergency crews were called to the low-rise on Keele Street near Shepherd Avenue West at around 4 a.m. A woman there was experiencing symptoms of concern, and testing confirmed high levels of carbon monoxide on the premises. EMS says one patient was transported in serious but non-life-threatening condition. Toronto Fire said the odorless gas was likely coming from the basement. They shut down the building's boiler and called in Enbridge to isolate the issue after some ventilation officials said they were just waiting for the all clear to let residents back inside safely. Well, this was the scene outside Queen's Park yesterday as a controversial mining bill passed third reading despite protests by the opposition and members of First Nations.
This week, the Ford government voted to shut down debate on Bill 5, and the Progressive Conservatives used their majority to get it over the finish line.
The ayes being 71, the nays being 44, I declare the motion carried.
A number of protesters were removed from the public gallery as the vote unfolded. Bill 5 gives the government power to suspend provincial and municipal laws in so-called special economic zones to speed up key infrastructure projects. Some First Nations say their rights and concerns have been ignored throughout the process.
We're going to protect the North. We're going to protect our resources. We're going to make sure that our kids have clean water and that they can live off the land. That's what this is about.
Some First Nations have called for blockades of roads, railways, and mines. Premier Ford said doing so would be very wise. The province has said it's committed to, quote, performing its duty to consult. Bill 5 is expected to receive royal assent before the legislature rises for summer break this week.
Marc Garneau, Canada's first astronaut in space and a former cabinet minister, is being remembered as a Canadian trailblazer. Garneau passed away at the age of 76 after a brief illness. His wife, Pam, writing in a statement that Marc faced his final days with the same strength, clarity, and grace that defined his life. He passed away peacefully, surrounded by the love of his family. She also expressed gratitude to the medical team who provided care during his short illness. And CTV's Jeremy Sharon joins us now with more. This seems so caught many off guard. Tell us more about Marc Garneau's legacy.
Yeah, Nathan, absolutely. This is a shock, as you've touched on. He was just 76. Marc Garneau only retired from politics in 2023. And this is someone who leaves behind kind of two separate, lasting, and very impressive legacies. Marc Garneau, the politician, the parliamentarian, was well-respected across party lines. He served as a cabinet minister, as a foreign affairs minister, and as the Minister of Transport. First came up under former Prime Minister now, Justin Trudeau, but was, as a parliamentarian, as a politician, someone who is well respected. We often see strong opposition, strong disagreement between, parliamentarians of different parties here in Ottawa, especially in the House of Commons. And surely there are some who opposed some of Marc Garneau's ideas or some of the things he would have talked about in Parliament. But they all respected him. They all had good things to say about him. They all will remember him in a very positive way. And we've seen that kind of come to light since, the news of his passing yesterday. We heard from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who called him a trailblazer. Former Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, who said that he was an inspiration to all Canadians, including himself. This was, Marc Garneau was one of those rare politicians that was highly respected and highly liked by all of his colleagues, regardless of party stripes, across the board on both sides of the aisle here in Ottawa. And that's how he'll be remembered as a parliamentarian, because he had a whole other career prior to that that is, probably even more impressive.
Yeah, a very impressive career. What are Canadian astronauts saying about Garneau's passing?
Yeah, I mean, let me correct myself there for a second. I think probably more impressive is highly understating it. Definitively more impressive is probably accurate. The first Canadian to go to space. In terms of his impact as an astronaut and the impact he's leaving, the legacy he's leaving in that industry, it's hard to compare. We're hearing from, Julie Payette, a former Canadian astronaut, Julie Payette, Chris Hadfield, talking about the legacy and the inspiration that Marc Garneau was for them, how he paved the way for the next generation, the current generation of astronauts. He was the first. He was the first to do it, the first Canadian to go to space. He embarked on several space missions and is someone that many looked up to and will continue to look up to in the space and aviation industry. We heard over the last day or so from Joshua Kutrick, a current astronaut, who spoke to, the role that he has played as a trailblazer, as someone who continues to inspire today. Here's a little more from him.
He was the first. He started the path that has been so historic and that has brought so much benefit to this country in terms of our space program. It's just a really sad moment. Just a couple of months ago, we were celebrating Marc Garneau, and we were celebrating this 40th anniversary of the first Canadian astronaut flight. And so for myself and the others, just absolute surprise and a real sense of loss right now.
Described as an inspirational trailblazer who was well-liked and well-respected by all, I'd say that's a pretty good legacy, Nathan.
Yeah, for sure. CTV's Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. Thank you.
Anytime.
Well, the bodies of two Israeli-American hostages taken in the October 7th Hamas attack have been recovered. One of them was a Canadian citizen. Israel says the remains of Judy Weinstein Haggai and her husband, Gadi Haggai, were recovered in a special operation by the Army and the Shin Bet Internal Security Agency. She was born in the U.S. but moved to Canada at the age of 3. The couple's bodies are being brought back to Israel for forensic identification. 56 hostages are still being held in Gaza. At least 20 are believed to still be alive.
Canadian steel companies and labor groups are meeting with MPs in Ottawa today. They want a strong response from the government after U.S. President Donald Trump doubled duties on steel and aluminum to 50%. Steel companies say the increase in tariffs is a crushing blow to the industry here in Canada. They're asking the Liberals to quickly impose matching tariffs in retaliation. But the Prime Minister said yesterday his government will need to take some time to craft a response as they examine different scenarios. Meanwhile, Canada posted its largest merchandise trade deficit ever in April at $7.1 billion. It happened as exports fell sharply in the face of U.S. tariffs. Overall, exports decreased nearly 11%. Exports of motor vehicles and parts dropped more than 17%. Consumer goods fell about 15%. The results followed an overall deficit of $2.3 billion in March.
Canadian steel companies and union members are in Ottawa today to call on the government to take action against Trump's latest tariff hike.
For years, the steel industry has been considered the heartbeat of Hamilton, and the doubling of tariffs is being met with a great deal of concern there from people. CTV's Rahim Ladani reports.
In Hamilton, Steeltown isn't just a nickname. It's a nod to the metal that everyone in the city is connected to.
I'm a refinish technician. When it comes to waiting and getting parts for all these cars, the time has almost doubled. So now when you bring your car into the body shop and you want your car back in a week, now it takes 2 weeks.
Workers say wait times are up, prices have soared, and their business is down. All is a direct result of tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump on Canadian steel and aluminum. And the ripple effect to other industries is significant.
All the steel's having problems, all the waste coming out, it's not going to be coming out as much. And that's mainly our business, is the waste, right? So, just outrageous.
Canada is the largest steel supplier to the United States, while the two steel manufacturers in Hamilton employ nearly 6,000 people in the city.
By violence.
All right, that was CTV's Rahim Ladani. We're going to leave that. Mayor Olivia Chow is in Lawrence Heights speaking about the mass shooting this week. Let's listen in.
They maintain their hope that things can change. They're asking for help. They're asking for change, and they gave us some very concrete things that we can do. One of which is a space, accessible, safe space for young people to gather, for community to gather. Surely we could do that. And protection, safety, feeling safe, kids being able to play without being worried, mom having to hug their kids to go before they go out and play and feel secure that the kids will come back safe. I'll let the chief speak, and I want to thank Deputy Mayor Mike Cole to bring the meeting together. The irony is this: in the morning of the shooting on June 3rd, I announced a summer safety plan that creates 3,000 young people opportunity for them to find mentorship, to have role models, employment, recreation activities, music programs. Also, we are increasing the Parks and Recreation community drop-in programs, young people drop-in program by 50%. And yet in the evening, we had this shooting, right? So as we rolled out what we've committed to this summer, we hope, and I believe it will make a difference. We will continue to work hard. I have made a commitment to come back in June, because right now some of the community members are too traumatized to come out to meet. They want a continued dialogue, which I've committed to, and I said, yes, I will be back in June. I want to now ask the chief to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you all for being here. It's not often this city comes together in such difficult circumstances as we have here. And, being in that room today with our community members that have been impacted so deeply by this set of events, it was an opportunity, first of all, for me on behalf of the service to express our condolences to the family, friends, and the community here at large for the loss of life, and to commit to working with our communities to listen to their concerns and do everything we can to work with them to ensure that we do everything we can as the service, but also with our city partners and other community partners to return a sense of safety and security in a way that resonates with this community. And I think, as the mayor said, we have a commitment to return in June, later this month, to meet and have more concrete conversations And what I heard today was certainly around a number of issues, but one of them is how to better access the Toronto Police. And I was joined today by a number of police leaders and neighborhood community officers that heard firsthand the concerns of the community, and we will be returning in June to advance that conversation. And I do want to reassure Torontonians that we are doing everything we possibly can to advance the investigation that is very, very active at the moment. And we're also committed to doing everything we can to prevent and intervene regarding gun violence, not just in this community, but across the city. And we'll remain laser focused in our efforts to do everything we can to tackle gun violence, particularly as the summer months are upon us. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank Police Chief Demke, who's been here with me before. He's been very involved in this community for many years, and welcome back under sad circumstances. And the mayor for coming up here, and I thought it was important to have the meeting up here in Lawrence Heights and not to be at City Hall. We're coming right here.
All right, we're listening to the mayor and the police chief. They visited the Lawrence Heights neighborhood after a man in a wheelchair was shot dead. 5 other victims ranging in ages from 17 to 30 were also taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The mayor said earlier that she understands the concern, but the gun violence is not out of control. She did reference her summer safety program, which will give 3,000 young people mentorship, employment, and other programs to get involved in. The chief, he expressed condolences. He says he's committed to working with communities to return safety and security. And both the mayor and chief say that they will return to that neighborhood later this month. Of course, we'll give you more details as we follow this on CTV News at 5 and 6.
We see firsthand what happened.
In Ottawa, the Minority Liberals' throne speech has been adopted without a vote.
I declare the motion, as amended, carried on division.
If a government loses a confidence vote, it is defeated, potentially triggering a snap election. But the speech from the throne was adopted on division last night, which means there was no recorded vote. The NDP had earlier declared it would vote against the speech because it didn't reflect the priorities of working families.
NATO's defense ministers are in Belgium today to find common ground on defense spending. Canada's David McGuinty says this country is aware of the challenges ahead.
Our government is already very hard at work. There will be more to say very soon as we look to revisit and review our expenditures domestically, continentally, and internationally. We are under no illusions about the scale of the challenges ahead.
We need our allies here in Europe and in Canada to step up even more, to step up and take the lead, to recognize the defense of the continent is the core mission. So 5% is our message, and we will deliver that.
The U.S. wants all NATO members to increase spending on defense to 5% of GDP. Canada is among those that have not yet reached the current 2% threshold. The Carney government has committed to rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces.
U.S. President Donald Trump has signed a proclamation preventing people from a dozen countries from entering the United States.
Today, I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others. The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed.
Trump cited the recent attack in Boulder, Colorado as the reason for the travel ban. Other countries on the list include Afghanistan and Iran. There will also be heightened restrictions on visitors from several other countries, including Cuba and Venezuela. It follows a similar ban during his first term.
If you drive or cycle, you know some streets are in much better shape than others. Today, CAA released its annual list of the worst roads in all of Ontario. It's likely not an honor the city was looking for, but the survey placed roads in Hamilton in both first and second place for the second year in a row. Aberdeen Avenue grabbed the top spot, followed by Barton Street East. County Road 49 in Prince Edward County was in third, while Eglinton West in Toronto and Hurontario in Mississauga round out the top 5. Those last 2 roads have been dealing with LRT-related construction for years now.
On the top 10, a lot of the roads are nominated because of the road surface, but in the case of Eglinton Avenue West, traffic congestion was a key reason why people did come to the campaign to get their voice heard. And there's certain pockets of Eglinton Avenue West that are experiencing some road surface issues at certain intersections, but definitely congestion is something that we heard.
The Garneau Expressway and Shepherd Avenue West also made the list of the top 10 worst roads in the province.
This morning, the TTC board officially approved the appointment of a new CEO who says he is ready to hit the ground running in improving the transit system.
I'll be spending a lot more time on the system. I have an ethos of, in order to understand the problem, to fix the problem, I've got to see the problem myself, so we can collectively work through what the solution is. And we may not be able to fix everything at once, but we've got to prioritise in respect to risk, prioritise in respect to safety, prioritise in terms of be transparent of what we can do within what time frame. So I'll be gauging that from my discussions with staff, customers, and then feeling the system for myself.
Mandeep Lally was previously in charge of subway operations at New York's Metropolitan Transport Authority.
Mandeep Lally's depth of experience managing the most complex subway system in the world is exactly what we need to get Toronto moving so that the TTC riders will experience more efficient, reliable, fast, and affordable services.
The new CEO replaces Rick Leary, who resigned from the top job last summer. Lindsay.
Well, it was close, but we did not exactly break a temperature record yesterday in Toronto. It was, however, our first 30-degree day of the year, and we were in good company. Look at these other communities that hit 30 yesterday, including Muskoka. Check this out, a whole list there of communities. Muskoka 30.4 degrees, and it was 31.3 at Toronto Pearson. The record to beat was 31.7. Now, today's high by comparison, 21. That's it, about 10 degrees cooler. And yes, it is an unsettled first day of the RBC Canadian Open, but look at the next three. A decent looking weekend forecast, but we do have to talk about a little bit of haze that's going to return for tomorrow. A full look at your forecast is after this break here on CTV News at noon.
Returning now to one of our earlier stories, how Canada's first astronaut in space and a former cabinet minister is being remembered.
A local school with a special connection to Marc Garneau is reacting today to his passing. Our Scott Lightfoot is at the school right now, and he has more. Scott, no doubt, you know, they're probably reacting with some shock.
Yeah, and, you know, you're both too young to remember this. This used to be the former Overlea Secondary School. In 1987, it was renamed Marc Garneau Collegiate Institute, of course, after the first Canadian in space. I'm going to show you over here. You can see now the flags here have been lowered in his honor and memory. Now, inside the school, there are lots of memorabilia on display regarding Garneau and the Canadian space program in general. Garneau himself, we're told, was immensely proud to have this school named in his honor. He visited many times over the years, as recently as last year. This morning we spoke to the school's principal, who says it's important that the school and the students keep his legacy alive.
So Canada's role in the space industry is small and sometimes overshadowed by the American role, isn't it? So it's so important that the next generation of space explorers see that there is a real and legitimate pathway towards supporting the space industry and even going to space. And I think he really saw that as his core purpose in coming back to MGCI so many times and speaking to kids and speaking to staff and helping with space education here at the school.
The principal told us that on more than one occasion when Garneau was visiting the school, he actually snuck into a classroom, pretended to be a substitute teacher, and took great joy in seeing how long it took before the students realized that their school's namesake was actually leading their class. Tonight at 6, we'll hear from some of the students here. Of course, they were all far too young to remember him as an astronaut, but they do have direct connections to him thanks to his visits. They'll tell us what he meant and what his legacy is to them. For now, reporting live at Marc Garneau Collegiate Institute, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. We look forward to that. Well, here we are, kind of the latter half of the week, and definitely unsettled. That intense heat we had a few days ago, it's dissipated a bit.
Right, not blazing hot, but still warm enough. I think you can still wear shorts.
Yeah, there's still a mugginess out there, at least right now. It'll be a little bit drier this afternoon, both as far as the wet weather is concerned, but also the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. Yeah, it was a hot one yesterday, less so today, and we are going to trend seasonal into the weekend. But beyond today, you'll probably enjoy the weather conditions. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Now, I do want to touch upon the haze that is set to return in some capacity today and tomorrow to southern Ontario. This is what our skyline looked like yesterday at about 5 p.m. And drifting smoke will be an ongoing story as these wildfires continue to burn. So not just in the short term, but really throughout the summer, we can expect more of this. And we have mentioned the air quality warnings and special statements that are in place across Western Canada, but now we are seeing them as well in southern Ontario, mainly along the shoreline of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. But just be mindful, if you are over the age of 65 and then children, pregnant individuals, this is of particular concern to you. Also, those who suffer from chronic illnesses, you might want to spend a little bit of extra time indoors with the deteriorating air quality that is expected. But today, we're at about a 3 on the Air Quality Health Index in Toronto, so not too bad for us. We're also getting a few showers right now, especially north and west of the city. Again, impacting the golfers and the spectators at the RBC Canadian Open in Caledon today, but I don't think it's dampening any spirits. We are going to dry out as we make our way through the afternoon and might even get some cloud cover clearing into the early part of the evening. So fingers crossed for some sun into Friday, a mix of sun and cloud and some haziness expected. Into Saturday, we can expect brighter skies overall, lots of sunshine, and the temperature is going to be quite nice, 24 degrees. Comfortable and also a little warm. We're at 19 right now here in the city. Your evening sports forecast looks like this. Still a chance of some lingering showers late in the afternoon, but the evening should be dry in most areas. Tonight's low expected to be around 15 degrees. Once again, we are on the warm side of seasonal. And then tomorrow's highs, right where we expect them to be. A little cool once again for some lakeside communities, but 23 to 25 degrees for the daytime high. Again, with that mix of sun and cloud and a little bit of haze. 7-day forecast looks like this, so hazy for your Friday, lots of sunshine on Saturday. Sunday looks to be a little bit cooler. This might even be overdoing it a little bit at 22, and then we're going to prepare for the next round of wet weather, which looks to arrive on Monday. That's your look at the weather. Stay with us. CTV News will be right back.
A new report is shedding light on the devastating impact of the opioid crisis in Ontario.
It comes from the province's chief coroner sharing the number of people who've died because of the drug. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live with the details. Beth.
Nathan, the number of opioid deaths is staggering compared to a decade ago in Ontario. In 2015, there were 728 deaths. Now, in 2024, the Office of the Chief Coroner has found there were more than 2,200 opioid toxicity deaths in Ontario. This is a drop from more than 2,600 deaths in 2023, and the peak of deaths that we saw in 2021 during the pandemic at close to 2,900. Fentanyl and related substances were found in more than 80% of the deaths, stimulants in 69%, prescription benzodiazepines in 45%, a sharp increase compared to 2023, while non-prescription benzodiazepines were found in 62%. It's all leaving advocates very concerned about the direction Ontario is taking to help solve the crisis.
It's still 5,000 people that have died over the last 2 years. This is nothing like pre the toxic supply, where we had a few hundred people dying. Deaths have grown exponentially. I would also say that maybe one of the trends of the downturn is that the drug supply itself has changed.
As we see people suffering from drug use that is illegal, that is truly deadly, we have a government that wants to stand with them and help them. That is why we have now announced and are opening, continue to open treatment hubs across Ontario, 28 in total. These are treatment hubs that for individuals who need that immediate primary care support will get it. Who need access to mental health and addiction support will get it.
Some advocates say Ontario already has treatment options and they don't work for everyone. And this is especially so because of the toxic drug supply. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Now back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Beth. The Lung Health Foundation is warning Canadians about the dangerous effects of wildfire smoke.
It's even been named as a factor in the air quality warnings in the U.S. right now. We get more from our health reporter, Pauline Chan.
The flames from Manitoba's wildfires are frightening to see, but it's not just the fire that can threaten lives.
We've definitely seen an increase in worsening of lung diseases and their symptoms in their lung disease, and we've also seen an increase in emergency room visits and hospitalizations.
Respiratory therapist Jessica Sitt says anyone with a lung condition like asthma or COPD is especially vulnerable.
With those specific lung diseases, any sort of airway inflammation can really exacerbate their symptoms and make their disease much worse. And a really bad exacerbation can send you directly to the hospital and can be fatal.
The Lung Health Foundation says if you're in that vulnerable group, make sure you check in regularly with your doctor and stick to your asthma or COPD action plan.
And if you are prescribed something like a puffer, that you're taking it regularly so that in the event you're exposed to any of these, to wildfire or this particulate matter, your lungs are going to be in much better shaped to deal with this wildfire smoke.
You know, few are seeing the flames, but millions are smelling the smoke right across the country. Methane and carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide and some toxic chemicals like benzene and arsenic.
Sitt says the wildfires are in Manitoba now, but Ontarians have seen them as close as Muskoka, and it's best to be prepared. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Well, with the warm weather finally here, you may start seeing signs popping up in your neighborhood for garage sales.
It could be a way for you to make some extra dollars selling things you don't need, or you could get lucky and find a deal, but bargain hunters beware. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert.
With nice weather also comes yard sales. You'll find old records and books, kids' clothing, and antiques. But Consumer Reports says not everything is as good a deal as it seems. Take battery-powered lawn tools. The product should come with the charger, extra batteries, and the manual if the seller still has it.
The most important thing you want to know is the age of the tool.
And if you have kids, you know garage sales can be a great way to get what you need without breaking the bank. But you still have to be careful the gear you get for your baby is safe.
While it's illegal to sell recalled products, including on the secondhand market, people might not be aware of the law or may not even realize that the product they're selling has been recalled.
And it's not uncommon to find recalled infant sleepers and other products. Cribs with drop-down sides are another dangerous item to never buy. These have been linked to dozens of infant deaths and were banned in 2011. Even parents planning on using newer cribs still need to be careful.
Sometimes a used crib may be passed on to you disassembled. You won't know if it's missing any hardware unless you have the assembly instructions.
Used car seats are also problematic.
Buying used car seats is not a good idea because you won't reliably know a lot about the seat.
The same goes for used bike helmets.
You should never reuse a helmet that's been in a crash because that could impact the performance of the helmet in case of another crash. Even if there's no sign of damage, you still don't know its history. It's not worth it.
And be careful about buying old used toys. The safest battery compartments have a screw. Pat Foran, CTV News.
A comeback win for the Oilers in the opening game of the Stanley Cup final.
Hopkins with it. Here's McDavid. Out in front. Score!
Leon Draisaitl scored his second of the game in the final minute of the first overtime to give Edmonton a 4-3 victory. The Oilers were down 3-1 early in the second, but outshot Florida 24-8 in the third period in overtime. Game 2 is tomorrow night in Edmonton.
And the Blue Jays continue their series with the Philadelphia Phillies last night.
Fastball hit high and deep right center. And off the wall, and the Blue Jays win it.
Alejandro Kirk was the hero for the Jays. He drove in the winning run in the bottom of the ninth to lift Toronto to a 2-1 victory. The teams will be back on the field this afternoon to wrap up their series. First pitch is just after 3.
Well, the biggest event on the Canadian golf calendar is underway at TTC Toronto at Osprey Valley. Round 1 of the RBC Canadian Open teed off this morning. 24 Canadians are competing, including Taylor Pendrith, who is currently tied for first. Fellow Canadian Nick Taylor is also on the leaderboard, tied for 5th. Last year's winner, Robert McIntyre, has returned. So has Rory McIlroy, who is looking for his 3rd title.
Dozens of people braved the rain and lined up downtown last night for a chance to get their hands on the Nintendo Switch 2. Gaming and electronic stores, including this EB Games location on Yonge Street, opened their doors at midnight to gaming fans as the Switch 2 went on sale. Those lucky enough to score one of the first highly anticipated consoles also got access to new games, accessories, and collectibles, as well as free giveaways in store. The Switch 2 is an upgrade to its 8-year-old predecessor with the new social features meant to draw players into online gaming. We asked some gamers why they were so excited for this new device.
Better performance, better graphics, more storage. Yeah, a lot of third-party developers will now come over to the Switch 2, so that's more exciting.
I came here like at 4 p.m. for 10 p.m. Yeah.
It's worth it to stay out in the rain and the heat?
Totally. So actually I'm from El Salvador. I flew to Canada just to be here.
So you came all the way from Salvador?
Yeah.
Just to get this game?
Totally.
How about that? Early demand for the new Switch 2 has been high, with pre-orders selling out almost immediately and few units up for grabs at launch. Quick break, more when we return.
While summer is just around the corner, CTV is thinking about fall. Today, the network unveiled the shows which are returning for a new season and new shows for you to watch.
CTV's Andrea Kay sat down with some of the stars today to talk about what's coming.
Care to put money on it?
On what? Who trains a better rookie?
Melissa O'Neill first leapt to fame as the winner of Canadian Idol. That was 20 years ago. For the last 7 seasons, the Calgary native has played the role of Lucy Chen on the CTV drama The Rookie.
Even when I was, when I moved to Los Angeles, I had my manager who I signed with, he was like, all right, come to LA, let's audition for stuff. I was like, I don't have a job down there. I'm not going where I don't have a job. You're crazy. And then I booked The Rookie like a month after that conversation. And so I've very much kind of, you know, I've not had money. I've grown up in a house where you don't have money, so you don't turn down a good job when it comes around. And so I've just kind of taken jobs when they come, and I've been so grateful to be able to experience so much of this industry, whether it's music or theater or Broadway in New York, and coming back into television. Like, it's a really rich environment to be in, filled with so many creatives behind the camera, in front of the camera, behind the camera. Like, it's so cool. So I love it. I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Also returning to the CTV lineup, Sullivan's Crossing. After fame on the teen drama One Tree Hill, lead actor Chad Michael Murray knew what he wanted to do next.
You know, you go to the grocery store and you see your pictures on a magazine and it's got this blurb or whatever about you. And so I think it can be really difficult, but you just got to learn to navigate things. And now I just like to keep my head down, do my job, treat people with love, grace, and that's really what it's about for me. I get to make people happy. That's like, how cool is that?
Not in Hollywood anymore, huh?
And who says you can never go home again? Tom Green has left Los Angeles and bought the farm, literally. This property outside of Ottawa is his home and now the location of his new show, Funny Farm.
I went to broadcasting school at Algonquin College, and I learned how to make videos, and then we started the Tom Green Show. And so it's kind of what I'm doing now, just with Bell Media and Crave, and we're making a show, like you said, on our own terms, with the help of a whole bunch of great people, and we're going to do a show from the farm that's going to show off not just this cool, crazy lifestyle that I've created with my donkey and my mule and my horses, but also Canada and the beauty of living on a Canadian farm. And I'm very proud of, you know, being Canadian, and I want to show the world what it's all about up here.
Andrea Case, CTV News.
After part 1 of the Wicked movie had a huge response at the box office, the musical adaptation is preparing to return to the big screen.
It's time for both of us to fly.
The official trailer is now out for the conclusion of the Wicked story. Wicked for Good once again stars Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, as a pair of witches who find themselves on opposite sides of a fight for the future of the Land of Oz. The musical and the Wicked book are, of course, inspired by The Wizard of Oz. The Wicked sequel hits theaters November 21st. Hopefully the weather's not wicked.
Ooh. Will it be? I mean, we actually have an improvement this afternoon.
We are looking at an improvement this afternoon, but I do want to mention that the air quality advisory I was talking about for Southern Ontario, it has been expanded by Environment Canada. So here's what that looks like. Expanded into areas like Algonquin Park, as well as extreme southwestern Ontario. And there it is. So we will have more on that part of the weather story tonight at 6. Here's the current satellite and radar. We're tracking a few more showers making their way into southern Ontario. It'll be drier later this evening and overnight. Tomorrow's forecast high about 23 with brighter skies and a little bit of haze. There's your cottage country weekend forecast. It's looking pretty good. And one more look at the 7-day. Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Au revoir.